A montage of clips depicts the journey across Cook Inlet to Crescent Lake, with audio of visitor impressions of the lake.
Most people are fortunate if they can make it here once in a lifetime.
Glaciers hang on mountain peaks.
Ultimately, everybody in this country owns this place.
Steam rises from Mount Redoubt.
And it belongs to the bears. This is their home. This is their grocery store. This is their kitchen.
It's wilderness.
From behind a mountain, a lake is revealed.
My first view of Crescent Lake is just wonderful. Pristine, jade green. The mountains just come up out of the water.
This place just takes my breath away.
A bear walks on the shores of the lake.
Flying in, not being able to drive on a road or in a boat. This is Alaska's adventure at its best.
The plane lands on the lake and taxis across the water.
Crescent Lake is part of Lake Clark National Park. It's the people's land. All citizens should feel ownership in experiencing the wild, congressionally designated wilderness that exists here. It's all of our responsibility to be good stewards of the land.
On-screen text, a trip to Crescent Lake. Together we keep this place wild. On-screen graphic, National Park Service Arrowhead.
1.1 disappear, 0.97 reappear. How do you like the 7 on that? That's windier than I thought it was going to be.
On-screen text, salmon and their habitat. 2 NPS scientists work from the floats of a plane.
Clean water is key to any form of life. The goal here is to understand the water quality.
On-screen text, Krista Bartz, aquatic ecologist, Inventory and Monitoring Network.
Overall, this watershed is intact. It's clean water, it's cold water, it's pristine, it's good for salmon.
Bright red salmon swim in the water.
They come up the river, spawn, and die.
A dead salmon decomposes in the shallows.
Those eggs will mature, head back out to the ocean where they will become adults, and they'll come back and start the life cycle again with spawning.
Underwater, sockeye swim. They have a large hump on their backs and a hooked nose.
All of those nutrients that they have acquired during their years at sea get left in the lake system. It also feeds bears, the gulls, the upcoming salmon population that's still
Bear
living
hunts
here.
for fish.
Crescent Lake has all 5 species of Pacific salmon. Those runs range from about 20,000 all the way up to 130,000 strong with sockeye.
Krista rides in a boat.
These fish are used for commercial fishing, recreational fishing, for subsistence. And they're also used by one of the largest densities of brown bears in North America.
Bear tracks meander down the beach. An adolescent grizzly walks. Mountains loom in the background. On-screen text, fishing in the wild.
I always say when we go to Alaska, we fish with the bears. It's just kind of a unique experience.
An angler stops fishing as he notices a bear.
I think I caught my first fish when I was like 3 years old in Finger Lake between Wasilla and Palmer.
On-screen text, Bill Edwards, Anchorage, Alaska.
It's pretty remarkable to fish for wild salmon with wild bears walking around, but you also have to be cautious and respectful of the bears. You have to be careful with your stuff. If you can avoid having food out here with you, that's better. And you need, ultimately, to keep it in a locked, bear-resistant food container.
A sow and 2 cubs walk down the beach.
You never know exactly what a bear is going to do. Give them a wide berth and maintain awareness.
An angler catches a fish.
Got one.
A bright red sockeye comes out of the water. 2 anglers fish on the shore of the lake.
Earlier in the year, you can get into good red or sockeye salmon, and there are a few kings swimming around, but the big game here, for me anyway, is silver salmon.
Bill casts his line.
When you're in the brush, you have to stay alert. I like to make noise so the bears know where I am.
If you're fishing and you see a bear, you should just stop fishing. If you have a fish on and a bear shows up, give the fish some slack, let it swim around until the bear goes away, and if worse comes to worse, Just cut the line.
An angler cuts his line.
When you catch a fish, store the fish in a container a bear can't get to.
Bill puts a freshly caught fish in a container and locks it. A kingfisher dives towards the water.
All right, little Dolly Varden.
A group of anglers stand in the river fishing.
I'm thinking there's got to be silvers in here.
On-screen text, Laura McWah, North Platte, Nebraska.
We usually fish about 4 days and end up taking 40 or 50 pounds of salmon home. Pretty amazing.
Laura catches a fish.
It's just kind of a unique experience to fish with the bears.
Bears swim in the water.
You clean fish carefully at Crescent Lake. You need to be sure that there isn't a bear in sight. Dispose of fish carcasses in deep, swift water so that it'll be dispersed and isn't going to attract bears.
Bill throws the carcass of the fish in the water.
Ultimately, we do these things because it keeps this place wild for the next people.
The sun sets over Crescent Lake. The Milky Way spins overhead with a tree in the foreground. It reflects on the surface of the lake. Two men in NPS uniforms head toward a boat docked on the lake.
I came over from Port Ellsworth, actually, so over the range to come in for work.
On-screen text, bears and their habitat.
It's an amazing scene to be able to fly by a giant steaming vent. You can sometimes get the tinge of sulfur from the continued venting of the volcano.
On-screen text, Buck Mangiapane, wildlife biologist, Lake Clark National Park and Preserve.
Crescent Lake itself is part of the big coastal system here. Our most recent population estimate was somewhere around 500 brown bears.
Two adolescent bears walk the shoreline.
There's pretty high density denning habitat all around here, but when the bears come out of the den, most of them travel through this country heading down to the coastline to the salt marsh meadows, which provide really good nutrition early in the season.
A sow and her cubs cross a river in the salt marsh.
As we get into late June, early July, you'll have sockeye moving into this lake area. So there'll be fish available and the bears will start to move back to make use of those resources.
A sow and her cubs walk the shore of the lake.
Crescent Lake is very important during that salmon period. It's the foundation of the ecosystem that really allows bears to thrive.
After eating a fish, the family of bears moves down the shore.
That's one of the reasons we have these amazing populations on the Lake Clark coast.
Mergansers float in the water as the sun sets.
For most people, wildlife is something they are excited to see, but at times when you're coming here to fish and then a bear shows up, you can feel like it's kind of a hindrance. But realize it's a really important resource, critical to these bears.
Anglers in a boat watch a bear fish.
You're in a wild Alaskan system, and the fact that a bear comes along, it's part of the experience. It's pretty awe-inspiring.
A bear fishes in the shallows as a seagull looks on. A family of bears eat a salmon as the sun sets. A plume of steam rises from Mount Redoubt. On-screen text, enjoying the view.
First time I saw the bears, I was just in awe. They're just this huge animal.
A visitor watches a bear.
I've been impressed with how many sightings we can have here of wildlife doing what they do, uninhibited.
A male grizzly saunters down a rocky shoreline.
I've been looking forward to see bears in Alaska since I was like 12 years old. This setting's incredible.
On-screen text, Bob Johnson, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
It's $1 million view, no matter which way you go.
Anglers fish from the shore.
I've never seen a bear in the wild before. Now if I can check off a moose, I've got the trifecta going.
A black bear walks down the shore and a grizzly is watched by visitors.
This is Alaska to me.
On-screen text, Lisa Merrifield, Honolulu, Hawaii. Lisa fishes the river in waders.
When I'm out here taking pictures of bears, I definitely want to make sure I don't disturb them. That means giving them lots of space being quiet, staying in a group, and being aware of what's going on around me. I never approach or follow a bear. If a bear is yawning or popping their jaw, you should probably back off. Those are signs it's not very happy. Everywhere you look, there's a bear. You're a long way from help out here, and the water is shockingly cold. Even strong swimmers may not surface due to shock. So it's really important that you wear your life jacket.
The mountains rise like towers on the edge of the lake. A bear shakes water from its fur.
It's enjoyable to watch the bears as much as it is to fish.
You can't ask for much more than this.
Mount Redoubt smokes in the background.
Crescent Lake is a stunning combination of water, mountains,
Bald eagle takes off.
glaciers,
Glaciers cling to the volcano.
a volcano,
A plume of smoke rises from the caldera.
fish and bears.
The sun sets behind the mountains.
The desire to come to a truly wild place is something that appeals to people. And these are some of the last large, intact ecosystems.
Northern lights dance in the sky behind the mountains.
The actions we have today affect the visitor that comes in the future.
On-screen text. A trip to Crescent Lake. Together we keep this place wild. On-screen text. Find out more at nps.gov/Lake Clark.